This is Annie of ByAnnie.com and Patterns by Annie. Thank you so much for joining us today for Live with Annie. As usual, we've started the stream a bit early. This helps us get everything set up and broadcasting properly to our various platforms. You can find a countdown clock on the screen showing how long it will be until we actually go live. While you wait, please connect with us and other viewers in the chat. Let us know where you are from and whether you're a new or longtime viewer. We'll see you live soon. Again for joining us for Live with Annie. We are so happy to have you with us today. While you wait for the program to start, we hope you'll enjoy the content playing on screen. There's so much inspiration, so take a moment to tell us what you love in the chat. Don't forget there is a countdown clock on the screen so you know how long until we go live. It's Annie again, reminding you that we'll be going live with this week's episode shortly. There is a countdown clock on the screen showing how much time is left. You've got just enough time to grab some water or a beverage of your choice and a snack, and to connect with us in the chat. We'd love to hear what you've been working on this week. It's Annie, back to remind you that we'll be starting this week's live very shortly. We've got a really fun episode planned for today, and we'll see you soon. Hi, I'm Annie of ByAnnie.com and Patterns by Annie. Thank you so much for joining us for episode 5 of season 5 of Live with Annie. Today we will be joined by Giuseppe Ribaudo of Giucy Giuce. Giuseppe is a pattern designer, maker, and fabric designer for Free Spirit Fabrics. We'll talk about his soon-to-be-released line 40 and learn what inspired it, as well as Giucy's tips for foundation paper piecing, using FPP for improv quilting, color selection, and more. Along the way, we'll talk about lots of ByAnnie projects and melanoma too, so stay tuned. Thank you so much for adjusting your calendar to join us for the second Wednesday of the month instead of the first. Although we did have a little bit of something going on last week when we were at the H&H Americas show in Chicago. We connected with wholesale customers from around the world there, including many of the Grand Prize, Creative Hub, and regional winners from our 2025 LQS contest. We introduced several brand new patterns, including 2 little totes, Leader of the Pack, a school backpack, and some really fun jump starter projects. We filmed a short intro to those which we played last week, but we'll be telling you lots more about all of them in next month's episode. I know you're going to love hearing about each and every one. We really appreciate you making the time to join us, whether you're watching live or catching us on the replay. So please make sure you follow us wherever you are watching. And if you're watching on YouTube, be sure to click on the subscribe button so that you're sure to get all the updates. And let us know that you appreciate the content we share. If you know anyone else who you think would enjoy our episodes, we would really love it if you would tag them so that they can check us out too. And we love hearing from you, so don't hold back. Share your thoughts in the chat. If you have any questions, drop them in as well, and we will do our best to answer them before we close today. Last week, we shared a tour of our booth at the H&H show in Chicago and gave you a little sneak peek at our 5 new patterns. I hope you enjoyed learning a bit about all of them and that you'll join us on June 4th for a closer look at each. If you missed that episode or you want to watch it again, remember that you can find all the previous 189 episodes of Live with Annie on our YouTube channel or at ByAnnie.com live. Note that the episodes will also be available on our Facebook page, but only for 30 days due to policy changes at Meta. So we highly recommend that you watch Live with Annie on YouTube. One of the great things about our lives is the community that we all build with the live chat feature. And when Facebook deletes the older streams, they're also going to delete the comments, which for me is such a bummer. But we would really like to keep all of the conversation generated and keep it forever, and right now YouTube is the best place for that. So please consider joining us for Live with Annie there. We have put up all the links to make them easy for you to find. I have to have a quick drink of water. I am especially excited today to have the opportunity to visit with my friend Giuseppe Ribaudo, otherwise known as Giucy Giuce. I have known Giuseppe since he worked at Andover Fabrics and have so enjoyed working with his fabrics over the years. Just recently, he changed companies and is now designing for Free Spirit Fabrics. I have also had the pleasure of teaching with him at quilt retreats, and I'm looking forward to doing that again over Labor Day weekend when we'll be together at a retreat in Montana. Giucy is such a kind and inspiring sewing soul, and I know you're going to love getting to know him better too, if you don't know him already. So please help me welcome Giucy Giuce.
Oh, audio. Audio's out.
We practiced right before this was supposed to go live, and everything was working great, and we were discussing how important it is to have someone who, like Jake, who can fix things when things don't go right. So we're going to see if we can get this fixed here.
Not getting any signal. We may have him exit out and then join back in.
Giucy, if you can hear me, try exiting out and joining back in, and let's see if that works.
It should only take a second.
It should only take a second. Jake says. Did we lose him completely now?
Well, yeah, but then he'll get back in and it'll refresh the connection.
Okay,
So
there he is. Okay.
and I heard something.
I.
There we go.
You're good.
We're back.
Yay.
All right. Sorry about that. So
I
I
guess
guess for trying to try something new.
we'll just both be tethered to our earphones.
It's all good.
And it works until you one thing's in one place and you walk that way, huh?
Right.
But we all learn to make it work. Well, thank you so much for coming and joining us. I know that our audience is excited as I am to have you here today. Glo, can you go
Thank
down
you.
a
I'm
little
very
bit?
excited
'Cause
to
I
be
don't-
here.
You have such a unique style. Your work is so inspiring. So let's just get started right away. So your new line collection called 40 just launched with Andover Fabrics, and this is going to be your final collection with them. Can you tell us a little bit about the inspiration behind this line?
Yeah, absolutely. So I turn 40 next month, and as a kind of celebration, I thought it would be fun to kind of create a fabric collection that felt, I mean, all the collections feel like me, but a collection that really felt like kind of me now joined with me in my youth. And so, I grew up, my heyday was the 90s, and it was I feel like a much more colorful world than the one we live in now. And so I really wanted to create a collection that really explored um, not only lots of color, but also the work that I've done so far in my career as a fabric designer. So I have, there's 20 existing fabrics and designs from past collections. And then there are 20 new ones, which are remixes of prints from my very first collection called Quantum. And together they make 40 SKUs, and it's a bright, bold, colorful collection, which I'll share some projects with you in a little bit. But it's yeah, everybody's midlife crisis, I feel like, manifests in a different way. And for me, it was creating kind of a Lisa Frank palette inspired fabric collection. To celebrate my 40th.
So instead of going and buying a fancy, expensive car or something like that, like a lot of people do on their 40th, my son Casey turned 40 this year. Wasn't he 40 this year? Last year? Okay. Comes too quick. He'll be 41 this November, but he is 40 now, right? Yeah, okay. It was fun for me to realize that you guys are exactly the same age, so how fun. But he bought a boat. That was his midlife crisis, a rowing and
That's
sailing
cool.
boat.
That's
I
neat.
think
If I had room for a boat, I might do that too.
I think that a fabric collection, all of us will relate to a whole lot better. And I have to say, I thoroughly enjoyed seeing things that I had seen in previous collections come back, but the riot of color that you introduced with these was really fun too. So tell us a little bit about when it will hit stores and how people can find stores that will be carrying 40.
For sure, yeah. So the collection comes out next month. It ships in June. So I hope that it'll be available, very shortly after very shortly after the beginning of the month. You can find it. There's lots of great online shops that will be carrying it. There are, and lots of hopefully in-person shops as well. But I know Pink Door Fabrics, Stitch Supply Co. Up in Canada, my friend Troll Brothers. There's lots of ones, but you can do a Google search and search 40 by Giucy and find all sorts of people on Etsy selling it. And if you want to mention it to your local quilt shop, let them know that you're interested in Giucy Giuce fabric. That never hurts either.
Right. And can stores still order it from Andover, or was this something they had to order long ago?
I believe that there's still a little bit of yardage left that you could maybe get in on at the end if you'd like to.
Sounds great. All right. So show us some projects that you've made using 40. We would love to see what you've done with it.
Sure, absolutely. So hang on one sec. I'll be right back. I had the foresight to put my projects on a wheelie chair so I could get them closer to me when I needed them.
Smart thinking.
Smart thinking, right? It's an old brain, but it's a good brain.
Not nearly as old as mine.
So this is one of the free projects from the collection. This is I don't remember the name of this one. I feel like it's like streamers or something like that. But the idea of it is basically so there's this big bold stripe in the collection. Kind of gets fussy cut and just has these really simple little bars. It's a really nice, easy, free to use pattern. I'm going to take this out of my ear 1 second, back up to show you a little bit better.
Oh yeah, that's so fun. And that pink and white stripe is a combination, right? Oh, you can't hear me. That pink and white stripe is a combination. That's
yes,
one fabric.
It is one fabric that's a pink white stripe, and then there's actually a white fabric that is color matched to the white background of the stripe to kind of extend those sections so that you can have, you need like a little bit of white sashing to kind of create the illusion between. But really nice, easy, fun pattern. You can see how bright and kind of bold the colors are in the collection.
That would be so ideal for a kid's room or a baby quilt or something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very I just wanted it to feel very celebratory and very just fun. I really wanted it to, I feel like when I was growing up and people would talk about 40 being over the hill, there was always this like negative connotation to turning 40, but I actually like have just felt like my decades have gotten better. And so I don't have this kind of dread going into my 40th year at all. I was like, I think you should celebrate getting older, right? Another year, what a blessing, right? So I figure it doesn't have to be this scary thing. It should be a really fun and wonderful thing.
That's right, because we just get better with every year that we add.
Yeah, like fine wine, right? We get better as we go. Yeah. This is another project from the collection. I'm going to take this out one more time and back up to show you.
Ooh, I love that. So it's more than one section of flying geese, like 4 panels or 2 panels?
Yeah, lots of flying geese. I love my flying geese. And yeah, it's basically just a bunch of flying geese with these fussy cut kinds of centers. This is a print from my collection called Sleuth, which was a true crime fabric collection. And then this up here is a print from my very first collection, Quantum, if you can see that. Oh, going the wrong way, sorry. So they, and then, yeah, it's basically just that. And then this 4-inch border of this, this is a print from my Nonna fabric collection, which is a collection about my grandmother's house that I've always had this, like all of the colorways were like very kind of muted and subdued. And I just really thought like, I really want to do just a bright, bold, crazy version of it. So went with a neon yellow version. Can't go wrong with neon yellow and hot pink flowers.
For sure.
This is another free pattern from Andover Fabrics as well. That one is called, I think it's called Bacula's Birthday. That there's a bunch of different versions of the Bacula quilt, which is one of the first free pattern I ever did for my first collection. And so you'll see there's if you go to the 40 collection on Andover's website, there's a link for free quilts. There's a PDF that has, I think, 5 different free projects. So I wanted all the projects to be free for this collection. So there are lots and lots of inspiration quilts for you to be able to make fun stuff with.
Yeah, that is fantastic. Do you have another one to show? Oh my gosh.
I have another one that maybe I'll show this one a little bit later when we talk about the FPP improv thing.
Okay.
If that's okay. Right. But I have 2 more to show you if that's okay.
Okay. You bet. Show and tell is always the best. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, right. So this is one of my new collaborations. I've collaborated with my friend Allison Glass on our mini-series patterns. And this is one that we have coming up in the next few weeks it's our first pattern that's called part of the XL series. So it's still tiny piecing, but not quite as tiny as the other tiny piecing projects that we've done. But this is the 20-inch version of this template, which is the pineapple block. I've used that pink stripe right here to kind of split the sections.
Yeah, I love
split
that.
The pillow in half. Isn't that fun? I really like that. I think it's kind of fun looking. Yeah.
So when you did that where it's pink and white, that's one solid piece going across there.
It's so it's the stripe from before, and then it's actually just subcut into strips, and
Yeah,
then just kind of you just kind of eyeball it and put it back in place. Doesn't have to be perfect. It still creates that lovely split illusion. Even like this, like over here comes over. I can't. I'm like backwards.
a little
Like this
bit.
guy over here comes over a little too far, but it doesn't make a difference in the end.
No, that makes it
So
really fun.
yeah, it's just really fun. There's definitely lots of piecing, but it's fun. It's a good time.
So how big
And
are the
then
little logs in that? About a quarter inch or less?
a little bit larger. They're about point. They're so each three rows, like three bars, kind of equal 1 inch. So they're about
Okay.
0.333 each. So you can really
Okay.
easily make it into whatever size you want it to be. It can be as large as 24 inches, and it can be, you can make it as small as 4 inches if you wanted to.
Got it. That's smart. Smart thinking.
Thanks.
Yeah,
Try to think of all the angles.
for sure.
And then last but not least, I have this fun little Zip It Up 2.0 bag by our friend Annie here. I don't know if you've seen this one before.
I think I have seen that one on Instagram with the words, and that's when I said, "Ooh, I've got to get my hands on those words, those alphabet things, because I can see so many fun things you could do with that." So toolbox,
Yeah,
how fun!
it's my little EPP kit that I just it was a little messy, so I thought instead of organizing it, I'll just take the stuff out of it. But
I get it.
yeah, it happens, right? But
For sure.
yeah, I love this pattern. I absolutely love it, and it's with the mini series alphabet blocks by my friend Allison and I. This is they're reduced down to 3 inches from the pattern, so they're like 75% of the original scale, so a little bit smaller than the pattern calls for. And then that same split thing with the stripe, and then I'm crazy about the back. I just
Yeah,
love that.
that's your Nana's fabric. I love that on
Yeah,
there
yeah,
too. That's so great.
yeah.
Turn that back around. So when you did the top letters, you used the white portion of the stripe as your background fabric, and then
Mhm.
the pink for the bottom. How did you get it to transition so nicely there? You just made sure you had a little pink and white at the bottom or top of each of them?
So basically, there are two. There's a white matching fabric in the collection and a pink one. So there's just a
Okay.
solid of this kind of like pink and white speckle
Okay.
sort of thing.
Okay.
And then right here, it's just really easy. You just kind of fussy cut a 1 inch strip of. I just did like a little fussy cut of that stripe edge, and
Got it.
use that to join the two halves together.
Clever.
Kind of
Yeah.
creates a nice seamless little illusion.
Yeah, I have not done anything with that particular piece of fabric that was sent to me, so you're giving me some great ideas for how to use it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that'd be awesome. I would love to see what you do with that.
All right. Well, let's move on and talk a little bit about your other things. Or actually, before we do that, let me show a few of the things that we made with 40, and then we'll move on to FPP and improv quilting and all of that. So,
Sounds great.
as I said, we were really lucky to get some of the fabrics from Andover. We especially loved working with it because the colors were so vibrant and the scale was just perfect to work with a lot of our projects. So one of the patterns that we used more than once with this line was our new on the go pattern, which came out at Fall Market, I believe, the new version of it. And so we did 3. I have 1 in process. I was going to try and finish it for today, and it just didn't happen. So that will be something I'll have to show at a future date. But I'm doing some flying geese on it, and it's going to be really fun. I lost one of the blocks last night, and it was more than I could bear to try and figure them out. So this one this was the most basic one we did, and we did I think this was called Donatello in Trapper Keeper or something. I can't remember. You're going to have to tell me the
Sounds
names of
good.
these. But I love the names that you picked for all of the fabrics. And so we did our on the go, and we picked this kind of bluish with the bluer ones for the lining, and then a kind of in-between shade for the coordinates on those. This is my favorite little bag to travel with. It's just the right size to hold my ID, my credit cards, my wallet, my glasses, my pens and pencils, my Kindle, my phone, and nothing else that I don't need hanging around my neck. So this is a great bag for that. We also did this one using the purple fabrics that were in there. This one I made when my friend Greta was here from Germany last year, and she actually made this one for me and did all the quilting. And I love how she quilted it with just random lines all over, which really I thought went well with the randomness of the fabric. I love the words that are on it and all the different designs. It was just a really fun fabric to play with. And for the lining on it, we did that beautiful bright purple that has all the geometric lines on it, and then a little bit darker one for the straps and handles. And that one is always an eye catcher when we have that displayed in our booth at shows. And then I wanted to try something with some FPP patterns, and I actually looked at your mini patterns and got a little bit frightened by them because the pieces were so little. So I just designed my own block using EQ and did a pineapple block to go in here. And so on this, I took this same fabric, but I just used the lining side out. So the green is now my lining on here, and the turquoise is my outside. And then I chose from a variety of fabrics, picking the beautiful little bouquet that you have for the center, the lime green, and then alternated the 2 different blues for the outside and 2 different turquoises for these pieces. So I'm anxious to talk to you to hear how you choose colors, because that for me was the hardest part when I was trying to decide how to do that. But those are all on the go. On this one, because we were focusing on paper piecing here, we just skipped the vinyl pocket that goes on the front and let the paper pieced block be the focus on there. So those are really fun little projects that we did. Then we also did a set of Zip It Up. So I'm going to have to try one with words on it like you did, but this is the basic pattern, and we used your gray and pink fabrics for this one. So we quilted one piece of fabric, and then for this one we used the gray for the outside and the pink for the lining. And on this one, we used the pink for the outside and the gray for the lining. So it enabled us to get 2 projects out of one piece of quilted fabric, which saves some time when we're ready to do it. And then we used, we used 2 different coordinates on the outside. And I'm not sure if these are from 40 or if these might be from your ink line. But the great thing is you can mix and match them all and combine them. So this is a pattern that's designed to hold like a laptop computer or something like that. In the outside pocket, you can put a Kindle or an iPad mini in here for the front pocket, and then you open it up and you've got lots of pockets for storing all the little things that you need to carry. I always use this one for my circle rulers and my scissors and my rotary cutters, or pens and pencils if you're a journaler. Lots and lots of ways that you can use Zip It Up. I love that you use yours for your FPP pieces. We also made some of our newest patterns, our jump starters. This is a new series of patterns that we introduced at H&H and we'll be talking about in June. There's 3 different patterns, each of which has 2 projects, and the patterns not only have 2 projects, this one has 3 different sizes, but they also include 3 pieces of soft and stable sized to make the projects that are in them. So they're fun, simple little projects. We're calling them jump starters. They're a great way if you're a beginning sewist to kind of jumpstart yourself on a new hobby that will give you a lifetime of enjoyment, or they're a great way if you've been working on a quilt for hours and hours and hours and you just need something, as Tula would say, to cleanse your palette. They're a great way to jumpstart your creativity. So this one is called Tidy Time, and it features mini mats and trinket trays in 3 different sizes. And so we alternated your really pretty floral one here with the big dots on the back, and then did a kind of the gold. We did the same fabric in different colors for the bindings on each of them to kind of tie them together. And then for the tray, you basically make it like you do the mat, but you add some stitching lines to fold it, and it creates a great little tray for pens and pencils. This makes a great little mouse pad at your desk. You can put wonder clips in here, use them at the sewing table. You can use it as a mug rug and a little thing for your cookies and snacks. So there's all kinds of fun ways to use these. And depending on which side you want to put up, you can get all kinds of different looks with them. So you could put that side up. On these, we had a lot of fun fussy cutting that beautiful bouquet to go right in the middle of the mat and also in the middle of the tray. So lots of ways you can play with those. This one is called Pint Size Pals, and it's just a couple of little zippered pouches. The smallest one is flat, and it's small enough to fit inside your pocket. This one is a little bit bigger, and we designed it to be standing, so it will stand up. When you open it, you've got really good visibility to everything inside. It's a great size to hold a phone or makeup, pens and pencils. Great way to organize things in a purse. The fun thing about these is that there's no quilting and absolutely no binding, but yet there's not any raw edges showing, so you get the professional finish that you expect with a ByAnnie pattern. And then last but not least is probably my favorite one, which is called Fidget Toys. And this pattern includes two projects, one which is a marble maze. So we did some flip and sew piecing on the top to create a patchwork block. And then we joined the back. We use the soft and stable as a foundation so that we can make sure all the pieces are lined up exactly right. And then before we sew the edges shut, we put a marble inside, and then you can push that marble along, and then you stitch along some of the lines between the patchwork blocks, and you create a maze. So it's just a fun way to exercise your mind and your hands, keep your fingers going. Great way for kids to have something to play with. People in assisted living to keep their minds occupied and their fingers exercised. Fun little projects to do and great for using up some scraps. And then my personal favorite in this pattern is called Sew Constrictor. And this is just a little magnetic snake that opens up to make a snake or closes, and you can sit and expand and contract it. It's kind of like playing the accordion. You get the clacking for the music, and lots of ways that you can make shapes with this. I had given one to my grandson as we were working on prototypes, and he made a crown, and he made bull's horns, and he had it wrapped around his arm, and just lots and lots of ways to play with that. Also a great way to learn to work with our sew-in magnets. So those are jump starters and lots of fun. And then last but not least, I wanted to show you one more project that we made with one of your older lines. This is called Ink. And if you look in the background, you're going to see we've got lots of models that we've made using both ink and redo. But this was a set of payday wallets that we made. And I love how this fabric reads as a solid, but the texture that you've put into it really makes it so interesting to look at, and something that would be perfect for a night out on the town, you know, with that little black dress, or just for running around town every day. So each of these opens up and has pockets inside with credit card pockets, a slip pocket here, which is perfect for fitting your phone, a nice big zippered pocket here, and then another zippered pocket here. So lots of room for carrying everything that you need to carry if you're going shopping for the day or out on the town for the night. And that's the large, and then there's also a small version. Each of them has a handle so you can wear it over your shoulder, or if you want to just carry it as a clutch or slip it in another bag, you can easily detach that strap too. This one is a little bit smaller, so there's not as many slots for credit cards on the inside, but has all the other features as the other one. So we had a whole lot of fun working with this fabric, and really appreciate all of the work that you went in to design such a fun collection. So thank you so much for that. All right.
It's so cool to see you to see what you did with all of those. They're so neat and so fun. And the best part about being a fabric designer is just seeing what other people do with the fabric. So it's just all of those are so cool. Like, they're just awesome. Great work.
Well, we love it when we get to show them off too. Some of this one just got finished. It's been sitting in Marianne's bin to be sewn for too long, but all the new stuff comes in and you got to work on that. So it was fun to finally get it back from her and have it ready to show. So I think that combining your bold prints with our functional designs really makes a great combination. So along with designing fabrics, you also teach quilting and design classes. So can you tell us a little bit about some of the classes that you teach?
Yeah, definitely. I do lots of foundation paper piecing classes, lots of tiny piecing classes, which are FPP classes as well. And then lately, I've been exploring this new to me technique of approaching improv sewing through foundation paper piecing. So I really love I love improv sewing, but I love the control and the precision of FPP. I love knowing that, if I want it to look like a flying goose, I can make it look like a flying goose, and all the points are going to be there where I want them to be. And so I've really been enjoying playing with. It's still improvisational because the improv is happening in drawing your templates. So no two blocks are alike. But you have just if you really love the foundation paper piecing process, it's pretty ideal if you want to achieve that look, but still have the wonderful benefits of foundation paper piecing.
Yeah, what a great idea to have something that's more unique and not so strict as you would normally get with FPP, where all the blocks are the same and absolutely perfect, but to have a little more freedom there to make them different sizes if you want. So, do you have formal training in art and design, and how have you developed your skills in quilting and knowing all about color and all this?
I think like everybody, I don't have any formal training. I went to school for musical theater, but I've always been very. The thing that I've come to realize about myself over time is that really just like my skill set's creativity, and so and that manifests itself in lots of different ways for me. But I've just always had kind of for as far as color goes, I've always kind of had an intuition for it. I think I've always had just this I've always known what I like, and I know how to, without necessarily knowing the words or how to get there. I've always known how to get the look that I was going for. I think we all have different kinds of natural aptitudes for it, and it's about kind of cultivating that skill set. And so I've over time I've gotten better at it. I think and just learning about it. I hope that I will continue to get better at it. Um, the best thing to do to kind of work on that is to just sort of pick apart what resonates with you, right? So like you'll see something that you really love, and I think a lot of people will just kind of glaze past it and be like, oh, that's really beautiful. But what is helpful is stopping to think about what is it about it that makes it beautiful to you, like what's at play here, what is working, what are the elements, and then how can you use those elements in your own work. How can you take that progression of color and translate it into something that feels like you. So yeah, there's lots of I think that that's the best way to kind of cultivate any skill set, is to just really not just say, oh wow, that's cool, but stop and really think about what's cool, why is it cool to you, what is it about that makes it great and interesting to you.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. So it might be improv, it might be rule breaking, but you've got a little bit of direction where you're following. I
Yeah,
have
I
to
have
say, some of that is a little bit intimidating to me too. So, do you have
yeah.
some tips that you can share about how you approach improv quilting? And I mean, where do you start? How do you know where to go?
Sure, I have a little project I can show you if that's okay.
That'd be great.
um So this is a new quilt that I finished. I'm going to pop these out one more time after I finish telling you. This is a medallion quilt that I just recently did. And basically what I've been doing is playing with, I'm going to start, this is like a 6-inch roll of paper. I'm going to start experimenting with different widths now. But what I usually use is just, I mean, a lot of people are familiar with using receipt paper to kind of piece on the receipt paper. It's basically that technique. So
Okay.
what I do is I kind of design a quilt that is like kind of pre-designated sizes for where I'm going to piece. And then I have like a little list of design motifs, and then I kind of randomly will pick, like I'll put them in a bag or something like that and pull them out at random. I kind of like will just come up with like a really basic color plan. Like for this, the color plan is color order. Each row is a different color. And then I just kind of explore from there. So I'll pull out, I know that row 1 is going to be pink. And so from there, I pull a random motif out of my bag, and then I basically just draw that I draw an FPP template onto the receipt paper, and then I kind of get busy. So this is a recent make. It doesn't have binding yet. I apologize, but you still get the idea.
For sure.
So of course I picked the corner to show you that doesn't have anything on it. Here we go. So this is kind of the vibe of what we're going for.
Okay,
And
so
so
I see that
basically,
first column. Okay.
yeah, so they just pretty much become, you pick, with this row right here, I had a block that was chevrons. So I basically just drew an FPP pattern that was chevrons, and then just pieced it like I would any other project. It follows around the border and goes this way. Oh no, wrong way. Sorry.
It's always tricky when you're backwards, isn't it?
Yeah.
So you just decide the length and how long you want it to be as you go.
hmm Yeah, pretty
Fun.
much. I get a little bit more specific about it. Like I kind of really pre-designate my areas, just really kind of crudely map everything out. But then you could absolutely do it that way, though, right? You could totally just kind of pick and choose what you want all of the pieces to be, and like just as you go. You don't have to decide in advance. You can just sort of make it up as you go, and then just sort of sew your sections together. So this is
That's
a
got
little
to,
medallion quilt, with a little
that's
fun little
lovely.
center.
And that has to be
Yeah.
so much fun to do. So when you did that center, that circle, is that also done the same way?
Yeah, I pretty much just I drew I had a center circle, and I drew, so basically I drew two circles. I had a center and then a larger circle, and then that created a ring, right, where
Right?
everything kind of would be pieced. Um, that gets broken up into four sections, and then the curves are essentially like each quadrant has to stay with its mate because it's not a perfect curve, right? I couldn't take the curve from down here and put it with the curve from up here because they're all going to land at a different angle because I'm just tracing a circle. So you take each quadrant and you like match them all up, so you have your A, your B, your C, your D, and you just kind of cut out your arcs. You draw the same as I would on a straight row. I draw the curved block, and then I just use the extra, it would be a concave and a convex curve. I use those to create a template, and then sew the pieces together like any other curved block. Really, it sounds more complicated than it actually is. It's actually quite easy.
Well, I get it. Yeah, that sounds actually very doable. I can tell you're a
Mhm.
great teacher because you make it perfectly understandable. I'm just curious when you do those templates, I assume this is a one and done type quilt. So you probably just make them out of the paper. You don't bother with template plastic and things like that that's going to last for a long time. Just go.
100%. It's just, it's very much, I think that that's definitely something that I think you kind of lose the spirit of what improv is if you were to try to, if even if you're like, oh, I really love the way that block came out, I want to do it again. To me, it's like, okay, well, you could just draw it again in a different way.
Right.
It's never going to be interesting the second time. You kind of have to do it once and let it be what it is. And the fun thing about it too with the improv is, like with FPP, how sometimes you can flip your fabric over and not have enough to kind of cover where you're going. The nice thing about this technique is that you can redraw your lines to make them fit for the fabric that you have sewn onto your template already.
Oh, that's
So it's
nice.
a nice, easy. Yeah, that's nice, right?
Yeah. Very liberating. Yeah.
Definitely.
Or add in an extra piece. I've learned to do that
Exactly.
on FPP. If it doesn't fit to the edge, I just sew in a little extra piece out there, and that's how I meant it to be.
Yeah, absolutely. No one needs to know.
No one needs to know unless you tell them. So, what
Right.
is your favorite part about teaching?
I just really, I think I'm an extroverted introvert. I like to think like I really love my quiet time. I love being alone, but I really do love people, and I love learning about people, and I love learning how people learn, and things like that. People have just always been really. I just love people, and so I'm very fortunate that I've gotten to travel the country and teach in all sorts of different places, and I just love seeing kind of what resonates with people and what doesn't sometimes, and just seeing, like with the tiny piecing, it doesn't happen as much nowadays because I feel like it's people have seen so many different versions of the miniseries blocks that they're like, okay, if all these people have made them, then there can't be that bad to kind of approach. But in the beginning, not that I invented tiny piecing by any stretch, but when I first started teaching it, I felt like people were so freaked out by it. They were so scared, like, oh, it's too small. I can't do it. I can't do it. And so that moment where they start to see it come together and they realize that they can do it, that's such a rewarding thing as a teacher to like, to see somebody go. I had somebody in the class the other day. It was not neither one of those classes. It was a different FPP workshop, but she had come to a trunk show on Friday, and she was not sure if she wanted to come to the class. And I convinced her to come to the class, and she was just adamant about, I'm not going to get it. I'm not going to be able to do it. I'm not going to be able to do it. And I told her, I said, I bet by the end of the class, you're going to be better at this than everybody else. And she was.
Wow.
And, it's just, and it wasn't me. It was just like, like really, I think the biggest thing I do as a teacher is encourage you to keep trying, Yep. And so it was just really awesome to see her finally have that moment of realizing, oh, I can do this. And then you start to think about all the other patterns that you can make with it, all the things that you can do with the technique, because it's just endless. I mean, you could sew every day for the rest of your life and not even put a dent in all the FPP patterns that are out there in the world, right?
Amen.
And
And
so,
so many different looks. I mean,
yeah,
so many totally different things. Just like your improv
absolutely.
thing, that's so totally
Yeah,
different from Tula's, very structured quilts. Yeah, this
sure.
lots of fun. Well, and
Yeah,
I
it's the best
appreciate
part of
what
all.
you said about making people realize that they can do that. One of my favorite sayings is, "If you think you can, you can, and if you think you can't, you can't." That we set up
Yeah,
roadblocks that just prevent us from progressing, and that sometimes that you just need someone to hold your hand and encourage you and say, "Yes, yes, you can. Just give it a try." So thank you for
yeah, that always
doing
breaks
that.
my heart when you have somebody in the class who's like, who like really beats themselves up and like really doesn't think that they can do it. Like that's always the person that I try really hard to show them, like, yeah, you can do it. I promise. It's yeah, I there's all sorts of reasons why a person doesn't believe in themselves, but even if you just get a little moment where you feel like you've kind of kindled something, that's a really rewarding thing.
Yep, for sure. So, do you have any upcoming classes that you can tell us about, or a place where people can find about where you will be teaching in the future?
Yeah, for sure. I have a bunch of stuff coming up this summer. All the summer stuff is pretty much sold out. My website is a little woefully out of date, but it is being updated. So my events will be up there for kind of a like September going forward. But yeah, I'm going to be in Sisters in July, which I'm really excited about. I get to teach a quilters affair every year, which is always a blast.
I
I'll be
bet.
there. Yeah, it's a pretty great event. And then from there, I go to Virginia, to South Boston, Virginia, to teach for Salem Stitches. I have a retreat that I am teaching there. And then I'm home for a little while, and then we go hang out in Montana together. I've never been to Montana, so I'm
Uh,
pretty excited. That's for So Fancy for Pink Door Fabrics.
yeah, that's going to be really fun. My daughter lives there, so I'm looking forward to spending time with her either before or after that. But it's such a beautiful place. I'm hoping that there won't be a whole lot of wildfires while we're there and the skies will be
Oh
clear,
gosh,
because
God
that's kind of
willing, yeah.
wildfire season. But
Yeah.
it,
I'm hoping
it's
that we get the
lovely.
chance to drive the park, and, if we can like go take an excursion through the park or something like that. I'm through Glacier. I just can't wait. I'm so excited.
Yeah, you would love it. Yeah. So over the years, I have seen you and Allison Glass regularly collaborate on fabric collections as well as your mini series patterns. So can you tell us a little bit about how that collaboration works and also what draws you to FPP and mini blocks in particular?
Sure. Yeah. Allison and I we're very, very good friends. We were at H&H, we counted how many pattern releases we have, and I think we're on 15 now with the one that's
Wow.
coming up. So we're
Wow.
doing pretty good. Yeah.
Is
We
that
really
one a year or more than one a year?
it's been like the mini series patterns we release four at a time. Like the
Okay.
actual regular block patterns, those
Got
get
it.
released
Okay.
four at a time. So yeah, there's 12 of those, and then we have another FPP pattern that we did a while back, which was our first collab, called North. And then there was one, then the alphabet pattern that I showed you with that toolbox. There was that one, and now we have the new mini series XL patterns that we're going to be releasing. So we try to do at least one thing a year together. We try to do at least one mini series project a year, um, and we just really I think Allison and I we complement one another in a lot of ways because we're such different people, but um, like aesthetically, we have so much overlap with what resonates with us, and I think we we also just really enjoy working with one another. We just genuinely have a good time talking to one another and just collaborating. And so yeah, she's one of my favorite people to work with, and I always look forward to when we have a project coming up because we get to talk lots and lots to one another. It's really
So
easy to yeah,
when
go
you
ahead.
do this, do you do it in person or is this all done over the phone or
A little bit of the fabric collections. We've done two fabric collabs so far, and we did we those we kind of had to do a little bit in person. You know, it's a little hard to because color you kind of got to see in person. You know,
yeah. Yeah.
so those we did together, and we would meet up to work on those. The pattern's not really so much. We kind of have the pattern via like distance thing down. We kind of know what to do there. I usually will I come up with some ridiculous idea for something, and Allison's always on board for it, which is really great.
I love it.
Um,
She's so great.
yeah, she's awesome. Yeah, she's
Yeah.
great. She's super fun, and I think the thing that I love about Allison is that she's big on like if I believe in it, then she believes in it, which I really love about her. That she puts that much trust in me. I really appreciate that. Um, but yeah, we just kind of like I'll like do a draft of something of an idea and then send it to her, have her take a look at it. If she likes it, then I'll do a sample of it. From there, we tweak, and it kind of just goes back and forth like that. And I have the fun job. I do like a lot of the design stuff and the sample making, and then she does the distro and all of that stuff. So I think, as far as I'm concerned, I have the fun part of the job.
But I know that she told me we were talking about when I teach this class this summer that I'd like to have some of your blocks, and I said those mini blocks just scare the heck out of me. And she said, "Oh, have Giucy make one for you. He'll have it done in 10 minutes." It's like,
Yeah,
wow.
I've gotten pretty quick at them. I had this idea. I thought it'd be really fun to do like a sewing challenge where you do like a battle royale of piecers, and everybody like there's like it starts with a bunch of people. They all make a block and it's all timed, and then we narrow it down to like 12 people, and then it gets narrowed down, and then the final person has to compete against me to see who could sew the block the fastest.
That
I
would
always
be
thought that'd
really
be really, really
fun.
fun to do. I thought that'd be fun, right?
Yeah, we should do it.
Yeah, I like the idea.
Well, for sure. So FPP is one of my favorite things because I am just not that precise of a piecer and not that particular. It's like it's close enough. But with FPP, I can really accomplish some really amazing blocks that are perfect because the paper does it for me. But but like I said earlier, those little mini ones really have intimidated me. So share some of your tips for tackling those really tiny pieces. How do you make people realize they can do it?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the biggest thing, I think people see the tiny piecing and they think that that means that they need to use tiny pieces of fabric to make that work. And the truth is, you just don't have to. With FPP, especially with tiny piecing, you can cut a piece of fabric as large as you want to be able to cover whatever area it is that you're working with, right? And so, I certainly use a lot of tiny piecing when I do mine because I've practiced it a bunch and I've gotten a lot better at it. I know what to expect whenever I'm working on any of the patterns. But and with that just comes with practice. Anybody can get there, of course. But to start out, just start with bigger pieces of fabric. It's a really just a nice, easy grace to give yourself. The thing that you should not be battling having a piece that's too small for the section you're trying to cover on a section of a block that's already really teeny tiny. So using a big piece of fabric is really helpful for that. And making sure that you have when I place my fabrics, I always make sure that I have plenty of fabric to kind of cover where the seam allowance is going to be, so that when I trim away my excess fabric, that's all going to go away. It's all of that's going to leave eventually when you're trimming away the block during that step. So don't be afraid about really having a big enough piece to cover a big section of seam allowance, because again, like if you're talking about a section that's like that tiny, having a piece of fabric that's that big isn't really that crazy much waste, right?
Right.
So that's a nice, easy way. Another thing that I find is really helpful is the thread that I like to use, which is called Decobob thread. It's a Wonderfill product, but any kind of lighter weight fabric. Lighter weight thread is really, really great to use.
So is that
Like
like
one
a
that's not,
60 weight?
it's actually an 80 weight.
80 weight. Whoa, really thin.
Mhm. Yeah, really, really fine. Yeah. So it's the thing that's really nice about it too is a cottonized poly, and so when you take your seam ripper, you can kind of just pop it in between the seam and just slice right on down. So because I feel like the thing that is the thing that feels frustrating about doing the tiny piecing is when you make a mistake that it's really finicky to take out, right? Because you have a shortened stitch length, so you don't have big chunks, like you don't have a lot of space in your thread to kind of cut things out. But with that thread and the seam ripper, like I said, you kind of just, since it's poly, you kind of just slice right between your fabric and your
Stitches.
block. Yeah, and your stitches just come right out like that. It makes it really painless and really easy to just take it out and sew it back down again.
That's a really good tip. Yeah.
It's also really it's a very, since it's so there's a lot of seams in one of those little blocks, right? So it's a very fine thread, so your seams can get really crisp and really flat, which is really important for these blocks, because if you have little folds in your fabric, then when you take out the paper at the end, your block is kind of going to balloon out, because there's going to be just that little tiny extra, little tiny bit of fabric at every seam. It's going to add up and make the block kind of balloon a little bit. So having
That,
nice, really crisp edges when you press is really important.
that's a really good tip. I never would have thought about having that lightweight of a thread to do it, and that really does make sense. Huh. Can you share some tips for how you choose fabrics and colors for like those mini blocks where you have so many pieces? I saw some of them you do rainbows, but not all are rainbows. So how do you do that?
Yeah, I do. So with so basically what you want to do is whatever you're kind of thinking about doing. The important thing is, like, when you have an entire quilt, it's really easy to, like, if like a fabric is like a shade off, or like like a different cast than the rest of them, it kind of will fall into the rest of the quilt, right? But with this, since everything is right here, you can see everything. So when you're picking your fabrics, the choices that you make are really important. So the way that I like to do that is I just really closely kind of stack my fabrics on top of one another, just about like 1/8 of an inch apart, so I can just see just the little tiny bit of that print, right? Or fabric, I should say. From there, when you're looking at kind of how your colors flow through one another, if when you look at it, your eye goes right to one piece of fabric instead of seeing the whole array of colors that you have there, then that guy's probably not a good, it might just be the wrong spot, but it might be the wrong fabric, right? It might not be the right choice. So that's a really easy way to kind of test your fabrics to make sure that you like the order that you're working with. But if you're just like really stunted by like um, the kind of possibilities of the fabrics that you can use, a really easy thing that you can do is to just take an ombre piece of fabric and just cut it up into sections, because it has already a beautiful flow of color. It's naturally done for you by the designer. You just kind of cut it up into sections, and then you'll recreate that beautiful flow in these little tiny sections. So that's another really easy way to do it. But basically, you want to create some kind of flow. That could be a color order thing. It could be light to dark in your colors. It could be it could be like analogous color, right? Like a section of the color wheel. It could be, maybe it's blue and purple and pink, or maybe it's red and orange and yellow. Just like a slice of the color wheel, all the colors that land next to one another. That's a really easy approach to get a really great looking block. There's all sorts of really fun ways to play with it. And the other thing too, I mean, like, don't be afraid of like stealing what somebody else did that worked for you, right? Worked for them. Like, if you see a block that somebody did that you think is really beautiful, there's nothing wrong with, if you're inspired by those colors, using those colors in your own project. If you find a mini block, like for me, if you go to my page and you really love the way that a block that I made looks, steal it, do it yourself. That's great with me. That's the best way to kind of learn and to kind of cultivate that skill set of picking and choosing, because when you see what's successful, then you're training yourself to be able to pick those things out a little bit better the next time that you go to pull your fabrics.
Yeah. The other thing that I think is so great about so many of the fabrics in this collection is that the scale is so good and the color is so kind of solidy on them that you can cut any selection. Like this one was one that I tried to pick for something, And invariably, I ended up with the bright yellow in one spot and then this part somewhere else. So I had to be really careful if I wanted to position that in there. And I finally just said, okay, I'm not using that one. I'm sticking with this one, which is more the same color all the way through. So lots of things to
Definitely.
think
Yeah, and
about when you're
that
that
little
tiny.
test that I was talking about, yeah, when it's that tiny, because all of that stuff is going to kind of mess with your flow, literally, you know? And so, yeah, the stacking the fabrics really close is a really easy way to see that. Like, you know, for instance, like, I mean, like Cape Facet has such beautiful fabrics, let's say, right? But they can be like, you know, this section can be purple and this section can be teal. So where you choose to use that fabric is really important. You have to be really strategic about it. Doesn't mean you can't use it. You just have to be smart about how you use it. So
Right.
when you're looking at your fabrics, you kind of just have to make sure that you're, if you know, like make sure that if you're using that dot and you want to use that yellow, like you're kind of isolating that yellow, if you will, you know.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. All right, let's talk about tools and tricks and stuff for when you do FPP. Like, what are the tools that you recommend having for that?
Definitely. So the thread that I was talking about is a great one. A seam roller is excellent. Seam rollers are great. Hitting with an iron is awesome too, you know, but a seam roller is really nice because I just find like I can get a really, like I kind of will splay my fabric and roll it with the seam roller to kind of really get a very crisp edge. Getting the flattest edge that you can is really important. If that works for you with if a ruler, I'm sorry, not a ruler, if an iron works well for you for that, that's great. But for me, a seam roller is the best way to kind of get that nice, clean. You want it to be such a sharp edge that you almost get a paper cut on it on your fabric.
Oh, okay.
Um, then add a quarter ruler is really helpful if you're doing regular foundation paper piecing. It just is a ruler that has, I'm seeing if I do, haha, add a quarter ruler.
Yay.
So this is a really fun one here. This has just kind of a 1/4 inch ledge, if you will, right here, so that this locks onto the fold of your paper so that you can trim away that excess fabric and have a really beautiful, clean, consistent 1/4 inch all the way around. Um, for my tiny piecing, they have an 1/8 ruler. That's what I use for the tiny stuff. Because if you did a 1/4 of an inch, you'd always be mowing over your seams over and over and over again because the sections are so teeny. And then, of course, a tiny a tiny stitch length is really important. I do for my tiny piecing, I do like about a 1.3 ish, and
Oh,
then for my regular FPP, I'll do like maybe like a one. I tend to go smaller, so I do like 1.5. But some people say you can go as much as like 1.8. I like it smaller. The
I
thread that I
like a
use, like I said,
1.5. Yeah.
yeah, smaller is just better. You know, it's going to perforate the paper really well. It's going to make the paper coming out really easy. It's just like ripping a check. It's just the easiest way. And the way that I was showing to use the seam ripper, you can go really tiny with it. If you're using the seam ripper that way, it's not going to be hard to get your stitches out. You know, if you're just kind of slicing down the line. Um, so don't be afraid of a tiny stitch length because it's the best way to add integrity and structure to your piece. And then the last thing too is like if you're doing like a fussy cut center like you had in the center of your beautiful bag with the little, you know, like a little flower in the center there, a little glue pen is really helpful for that too. I think I have one. Do I have one in this? Yeah. In this block here, I did a little G in the center. So I just made sure that I glued that. Where are you? There you are. I glued that
Wow.
into place first so that I knew it wasn't going to go anywhere. So
Yeah,
that's a
because you
nice,
want
really
it to
easy
stay
way.
centered.
Yes, indeed, you do. You don't want to get like 4 or 5 rows out and realize that your center is not center. So yeah, that's a nice, really easy way to kind of ensure that everything's going to be as you want it to be.
Awesome. Well, those are really some great tips. I know that at one point we were talking too that if you were doing something where you used multiple blocks over and over again, you often would do chain piecing with those. And that's a great
Yeah,
way to save some time.
definitely. If you're doing multiple blocks, like if you're, you know, freezer paper technique is really great for this, or really any FPP. If you have a repeated block and you want to, like what I do when I set up any block, where if I know exactly where I'm going and I have all my fabrics selected, I cut all of my pieces at all at once, so that everything is laid out in the order. It gives me a really strong visual for double checking to make sure that I'm really happy with the order and progression of my fabrics. but it also makes it really easy for piecing. So if I was going to do, let's say, 4 blocks that were all the same, I'd have 4 separate piles of everything in order as I wanted to go. And then I would do block 1, block 2, block 3, block 4, trim all 4 of those sections, press all 4 of those sections all at once. I think it stays, you stay more active in the project that way than you do like some, you don't want to finish 1 block and be like, okay, I did 1, now I have to do 3 more. This way you're kind of parsing out the work and like
Yeah.
it all feels a little more, I feel like it's just, it gets done a little faster almost if you do it that way.
For sure. And if you're trimming and you're ironing, you do all 4 of them at the same time. So I think it saves a lot of time too. However, I do have one tip to share based on that. And this is from a personal experience that I had. This was when I very first learned to paper piece, but I was making a whole lot of, I'm pretty sure it was little tiny flying geese blocks. And I had a whole pile of them, and I got all the pieces sewn on and went to press them all over and realized that every single one of them was upside down. And so the thing I recommend is making sure that you're on the right track before you repeat a step over and over again, because I hadn't gone that far. I just threw them away and started over at that point because it was much quicker than trying to take all those pieces off and cut them again. So that was it. But that's my little tip. So I'm curious
Definitely.
if you've ever had any oops moments, things that you've done that have not been quite what you intended.
The oops moment for me, I've gotten better at it as you kind of go along, but the oops moment for me is always the not having enough fabric to flip over to cover the section you want to cover. And so I definitely do what you said for sure. I've definitely added a piece of fabric just to make up the rest of that space. I definitely do that. If I'm doing the improv thing, like I said before, it's really easy to just kind of redraw your lines. But I think it's part of why I like to sew the tiny stuff so much, is that there's so little room for error in fabric placement because the sections are so small. So you just don't really need to worry too much about the fabric not reaching where you need it to reach. But even so, that still happens to me. Like when I was doing this block here, you get into a rhythm, and like up here, it's really easy to the sections get longer, they get a little wider. So sometimes, especially with the fussy cut center like this, it's really easy to not have enough width of your fabric up here, because it doesn't seem like much, but like that little extra little triangle thing there you're trying to cover, it seems like it's going to be wide enough, and then when you go to flip it, you realize that it's not. It's still, sometimes I still run into that. The other oops thing that happens to me all the time, and always in the larger sections of like a longer section, is I kind of get in a roll, and then I don't like I'll do 4 sides at one time on that block. When I go, I pin them all into place, and then I flip over the template, I sew one section, rotate, sew again, and I forget to check if there's bobbin thread in my machine. That one is one that I've been doing a lot lately.
Yeah, that is so annoying when that happens too.
You're like on a roll. It's always like when you're like in your groove and like you feel good and you're having a great time, and then that happens and you have to stop and wind a new bobbin, and
Figure out which place those pieces all went, realign them up, start all over.
Realign them up. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well,
definitely.
those are some really good tips, and thank you for keeping it real and making it less intimidating. I am going to have to give those little mini blocks a try. I do have an add an eighth ruler. I've never used it, so this will be my opportunity to give it a try. But I really love how you help people feel confident. You make sure that they have fun along the way. Besides quilting and fabric design, what else do you do to fuel your creativity?
Yeah, I've been. I love camping. I love the outdoors. I love hiking, and I love reading. I love writing. I play the piano. I love to sing. Um, all of those things are kind of things that feed my soul. My dad and I are actually planting. A few years back, we did a garden in their backyard, and we just haven't had the time. But this year, we're going to do another one. I'm actually going there next week to help him plant the garden. So I'm looking forward to having that to kind of, you know, I mean, I see them all the time anyway, but I'm excited to have that like kind of little ritual thing for us to check up on every week. Um, all sorts of things like that. I really just love, I'm very tactile, like so many of us are. And with what, it's why we do what we do. We're very tactile people. And so, I really just love, anything that I can really like. I love getting my hands in the dirt. I love making a tent, all of those things. So, yeah, anything like that is great with me.
That's so much fun. Giucy, it has been so much fun to talk to you today. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here. I know you've been traveling a ton. You've only been home, what, for a couple days? Out
Yeah,
of
yeah, it's
even the
been,
past month, right?
yeah, I was home 2 days this last month, I think. Yeah.
Wow, wow, that's a lot. Before we say goodbye, I do want to go through some questions that people have asked. So,
Sure.
can I read you some questions to answer? So,
Let's
what
do
the
it.
first one is, do you have any tips for doing FPP with directional fabrics?
So the best way that I've found to use directional fabrics with your FPP is to create a template from what your, like, how do you best say this? You'd create a template of what it is that you're trying to cover, and kind of cut your fabric out with that template, and then piece it into the block. That'll help you with your angles, especially, right? Especially, that's, I feel like, the hardest thing to keep track of when you have a directional print and you're trying to FPP with it is sometimes end up with a really funny angle that you're trying to account for as well. So the best way is to kind of, you can even like just like on the, with like one of those, like a friction pen, just like on a light box, kind of trace the shape with your template out to kind of see it, and then cut your extra fabric around it, so that you have enough there to be able to, sew it into place. It's not something that it's not something that I've done very much of, truthfully. But but if I were going to do that, that would be the way that I would approach, working with a directional fabric with FPP.
That makes perfect sense. The next question is, where do you get the 6-inch roll of paper?
Oh, this is actually just, I found this at, it was like a construction thing. It's like the paper that they put up when they're like painting and stuff like that. It's just really, really chintzy, cheap paper. I can't honestly, I haven't tried it yet, so I don't know if I actually will recommend it yet.
Uh
So
huh.
let me work with it first and then see if I think you should use it too. But yeah, it's basically just, the kind of paper that they use to put up when they're working on construction. It's super, super fine, really lightweight, but it's just the only roll that I could find that was, the
The
measurement that I
width you
wanted, which is
wanted.
6 inch.
Huh.
The
That
width I
seems like
wanted.
a great
Yeah.
idea, and I bet being lightweight like that, it'll tear out really easily. I bet it'll work really
Yeah,
well.
I think it could work really, really well. It's kind of, it has a really nice, it's very, very light hand, and there's 60 yards on the roll. So there's a good amount there, and it was very inexpensive.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that it'll be a good, a good thing.
Yeah. I love it. I love it when you find things in unexpected places like the home improvement store. That's always really
I
fun.
know, right? Love that.
So the next question is, do you use specialty paper when you do FPP, or do you just use regular printer paper?
I used to use I like a 20-pound copy paper. I just really like a lightweight, cheap, cheap, cheap copy paper. That's my favorite. Especially for the tiny piecing, the finer papers, I don't feel like they have enough, like if you do take out a seam, it's really easy to like for the perforation to confuse you because you've already sewn over that line. And so with a thicker piece of paper, I just feel you can just see things better. And to, I mean, especially like in the center of a lot of the blocks, since they're so concentrated with lots of seams, it's really easy for the paper to kind of just tear on you. So having a little bit of a heftier paper is what I always recommend. All of my FPP, I tend to do on like a regular, just copy paper.
That's exactly what I do too. I find it, I don't have to think and get something extra, and it's
Hmm.
when you're doing especially a 1.3 or a 1.5 stitch, you're not going to have any trouble tearing it away. So it
Yeah,
works
I'm a
well.
big believer in like using the thing. Like, there's lots of things that we use in our industry that are really handy and really great. Like, the add a quarter ruler is invaluable to me. I use it all the time. It makes my
Yeah.
job easier. It allows me to have that precision that I want every time. But if you can find like that home improvement store version of it that makes it easy for you to do something, then I think that that's excellent as well.
For sure. If you're using an 80 weight thread, what size needle do you use when you're doing FPP? Do you use a smaller needle, or do you want a bigger one so you get that bigger hole?
So the one that they recommend is an 8012 Microtex is what the Wonderfil recommends. That's what I use. I use the 8012 Microtex is pretty much what I use for. I mean, most of what I do is FPP, so it's pretty much just a pack of those next to my machine all the time, and they work really, really, really well for that.
Great, good. I usually use a 9012, but I'm using usually a 50 weight thread, and probably that needle's a little big, what I need for that, but since I'm working with soft and stable, which adds that little bit of bulk, that's a good needle for that too.
It's a good needle for that, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Well, this has been just a wonderful conversation. I know our audience loved hearing about 40, your new collection, your teaching, your creative journey. So tell us again where people can follow you to stay updated on your latest projects.
Yeah, you can go to my Instagram, which is just Giucy Giuce, Giucy_Giuce, Giucy. And then also my website, of course, if you'd like to join my newsletter, that's where I send important updates on releases and things like that. So that is the best way to kind of keep track of what I'm doing. I wish I could manage more than those two things, but that's about all I can handle. That's all I have the bandwidth for.
I totally get it, and it's enough. So thank you so much. I noticed that we had Giucy Giuce spelled right in everything we had today except the subject of the email where we had GUI. So don't follow that. Follow everything else. It's GIUCY. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to mention that. And thank everyone for watching us today. Be sure to go check out Giuseppe's work because it really is inspiring. And Giuseppe, I will look forward to seeing you in Montana in August. And let's plan another visit when your next line of fabric with Free Spirit comes out.
That would be wonderful. Thanks so much for your time, Annie. This has been just absolutely wonderful.
All right. Bye-bye. Great to see you.
Bye, everybody.
So I hope you all enjoyed learning more about Giucy Giuce and seeing his beautiful fabrics and designs. He is so sharing with his knowledge, and I really appreciate that he took the time to share all of that with us. So as always, ask for these patterns, fabrics, and other products at your local quilt shop. These shops are such an important part of our sewing and quilting communities. It's up to all of us to keep them strong and vibrant. And if they don't have these products, they can certainly get them. Giucy's current fabrics come from Andover Fabrics. His upcoming lines will be from Free Spirit Fabrics, and ByAnnie patterns and supplies will come from their favorite distributors or directly from us. And we are always happy to set up wholesale accounts for qualified shops, so just ask them to contact us for more information. All right, one more drink, and then we are going to move on to our monthly Sew Pink segment. So as you may know, this year we are featuring different cancers each month, and we're sharing information and projects that we've made. So May is Melanoma Awareness Month, and so we're going to talk a little bit about what it is, the risk factors, the treatment, and more. So according to the American Cancer Society, cancer of the skin is by far the most common of all cancers in the United States. And although melanoma only accounts for about 1% of skin cancers, I did not know that, it causes a large majority of skin cancer deaths. The best way to protect yourself is by avoiding prolonged or intense UV radiation. So to reduce your risk, avoid direct sun exposure, wear protective clothing, and use a broad spectrum sunscreen of at least 30 SPF. Like all cancers, the sooner melanoma is detected, the higher the chance of recovery. And thankfully, there is a really simple way to check if any moles or spots you might have are suspicious. All you need to remember is A, B, C, D, E. So A is for asymmetry. So you want to check to see if both halves of a mole or spot match. B is for border. One sign of a suspicious mole is irregular edges. C is for color. If you notice uneven colors like browns, blacks, or reds, consider giving your dermatologist a call. D is for diameter. So take note of any spots that are larger than 6 millimeters. And for us in the US who don't know millimeters, it's about the size of a pencil eraser. Finally, E is for evolving. Changes in size, shape, or color can also indicate a melanoma. So regular skin checks and being aware of changes in moles or skin spots are really the key to early detection. And with prompt diagnosis and treatment, melanoma can be effectively treated, improving the chances of survival. So if you notice any suspicious changes in your skin, be sure to consult a healthcare professional promptly for evaluation. The color for melanoma is black, so to help build awareness this month, we made a set of meshing around bags using a variety of black and gray fabrics from our friends at Riley Blake. So I'm going to dig these out here. Yeah, I'll clear some of this stuff out of the way so we've got a little room to show these. There's my other one down here. So summer's coming and it's the perfect time to get out in the sun, but what better way to raise awareness than to make a little meshing around and put one of the cancer awareness ribbons on the front or back, whichever side you decide this is. So we used a variety of fabrics, again from Riley Blake. On the small one, we used Shadow as the main fabric, and we added some of their black sparkler that has some little metallic stars and things in it for the coordinate. So the coordinate is used for the straps, and then we used black mesh and black fold-over elastic. For the medium, we picked the color Cement as the main, and then we used black for the ribbon and the coordinates here, and we used a pewter mesh with black fold-over elastic. And then for the large, we picked a color called Lead for the main, and again used that black sparkler for the coordinate. So we customized this block again by using the black awareness ribbon. We used the FPP pattern from Angela Bowman at Sofinity.com. Her 6-inch block pattern was just the perfect size to use on the bag bottom. So we just added a strip of fabric to the top and another bigger strip to the bottom to make it the size that was needed for that full piece of fabric, and then just followed the pattern the way it was written. And don't forget that we prepared a color chart that shows solid fabrics from 16 different manufacturers. So if you want to make a project to help spread awareness, you can find links to that at our blog or by going to the #SoPink page at ByAnnie.com. So these meshing around bags would be really great to carry. I've got my sunscreen in here, I've got a book, I've got my towel ready to go to the beach, and a great way to help spread awareness of melanoma at the same time. Because the top of the bag is made with mesh, they're perfect for carrying a wet swimsuit or your flip-flops that maybe have been in the sand. Or if you want to go to the beach with all your sand toys, a great way to put them in there and then shake out all the sand when you're ready to go home. So these would be great for anybody, but they would be especially nice for someone who's undergoing treatments because they could use them to carry personal items to treatment too. I hope you enjoyed learning about how we customized this pattern for this eye-catching set, and hope that you'll be inspired too to make something to spread awareness of melanoma. All right, I'm going to get these out of the way, and we are going to talk about another way that you might use ByAnnie bags to help others. Glow, I am out of water. It has been a thirsty day in here. It's quite warm in this room today with all these lights on in here. So I will try not to spill this down my front. I just push that? Okay. I'm going to have to learn how to use that bottle. All right, so did you know that children in foster care often have to use trash bags when it's time to move their belongings? There's an organization called Comfort Cases that works to give foster kids some dignity by providing travel bags, because no child should ever have to carry their life in a trash bag. This worthwhile organization is currently collecting donations, and you can find them at comfortcases.org. So while you might feel that a full-size travel bag might feel like too much to make and donate, they also would like to have some smaller bags for toiletries. And ideally, they can use small bags that are lined with wipeable materials such as slicker. And as you probably know, many ByAnnie patterns are perfect for this. and the kids would really love receiving something so thoughtfully made. So you could get creative with fabrics for kids or teens, and it would be a great project for using up your scraps. So I thought I would just show you a few ideas of things that you might make. One is our free pattern Easy Does It, which is just made with 2 or 3 fat quarters. So a great way to use up some fabrics you might have. This is one that we made using a fun fabric for summertime with people at the beach. Another idea might be a set of clam-up bags, or even just one size. A lot of you I know make clam-up bags, and these are so fun because the pattern includes 5 different sizes, and these can be made in any variety of fabric for men, women, kids. So lots of fun ways that you could brighten someone's life with these. Then we've got quick zip cases, which is a fun and simple bag to make. These come in 2 different sizes. These would be great for carrying a toothbrush, some toothpaste, hairbrushes, combs, all those type of things, and great to stash into a bigger bag, but have all of their personal items close at hand. And then we've got ditty bags. This is a fun set that we made using fabric from Tula Pink. So we featured the dogs on the front. I can picture a lot of kids really loving a bag like this. They may not be able to have a pet if they're in foster care, but this would be a great way for them to still show their love for dogs and cats and things like that. And then finally, this is our drop zone pattern, which is a perfect way to carry toiletries, personal needs, school supplies, all the things that someone needs as they're moving from home to home. This is a really special set for me because these were made using fabric from Josie, a little girl who had cancer, and we were happy to help promote this fabric and as a fundraiser that QT did. So if you'd like more information about donating any of these small bags, I know a lot of you love sewing and love being able to help others, just reach out to them at comfortcases.org. They've got chapters here in the US, they also have them in the UK, and I'm sure they're always looking for people all around the world, so check that out. All right, before we close, we also want to remind you that our friends at Shop Hop Inc. have organized some really great shop hops for the coming months. So go all the way down, glow past all the yellow. There, you have just a couple more weeks to visit shop hops in the Pacific Northwest, Kansas and Nebraska and Minnesota. And for the rest of this month and throughout June, there will be new shop hops in New York and Indiana. And then during the months of June and July, you will find lots of stores participating in shop hops, that's hard to say, in Iowa and Michigan. So that is a lot of shop hops. Summer must be the time for those. A lot of amazing stores to support, and those are really perfect if you're doing any traveling this summer. So I hope you'll have the opportunity to visit many of those shops, and if you do, be sure to say hi and tell them Annie sent you. And remember that many of the shops that are participating in these shop hops are displaying ByAnnie trunk shows, so take advantage of the opportunity to see our models up close and personal. And we'll put up the links so you can get all the details. Thank you again to everyone who joined us today. We will be back Wednesday, June 4th, that's about 2 or 3 weeks from now, to tell you all about the 5 new patterns that we produce for spring. We have got lots of fun models and tips to share, so be sure to mark your calendars now to join us on June 4th. And until then, happy stitching!